Hey guys, welcome back. When we left last time, I told you we were going to cut our pieces to the length that's going to make our sides for a corner cabinet. And that's what we're going to do. So why am I over here at the router table? If you think about it, it makes a lot of sense once I tell you why. That didn't make a lot of sense, did it? Oh well. One of the things I dislike a lot is having to nail things on or attach moldings and whatever to where the holes have to be filled and all of this. And I know that that's pretty much typical of the way things are done. But I think, and I hope you're finding out, I don't do things real typical. Over the years, I found that anything that I had to repair, fill, or whatever was an issue. We got some great fillers out here, no doubt. But when you stop and think about it, when you're able to attach moldings and things where the means of attachment is hidden, it just makes for a nice, cleaner, crisper look. And then you get other woodworkers looking at it wondering how you did that. That's kind of fun. Well, I'm going to show you. Now, if you've watched any of my DVDs and you've seen the ones where I do, and I don't want to get too far ahead, where I miter my moldings, but I always attach my moldings underneath where I can. In this case, and let me explain this, and then you'll see it come together. When we put the sides on this corner cabinet, where we have this belt molding going around that separates the two cases, I want to take that molding and be able to attach it to the bottom of the case, not have to nail or glue the molding on to the face of the case. And I like to do that because it makes finishing easier. So I do my moldings a little different. So before I can cut these pieces to length, one of the things I have to establish is when I make this molding, it's going to have the molding and then there's going to be a little shelf. We're going to make a shelf on it. And that shelf slides in underneath the face frame and we're able to attach it underneath. And I could do all these calculations and figure that out. But you know, it's a funny thing about calculations. They don't always work out. So what I do is I'm going to have my actual, I got to make the molding anyway. So it makes a lot of sense to go ahead and make your molding, then adjust your face frame to fit it. Because if something doesn't go exactly as planned, well, we can adjust the face frame to accommodate. Just makes a whole lot of sense. You know, I've always been, and one of the things you're going to notice as we go through these, yeah, I measure, but I always double check. And I call it, I do a literal measurement. And what that term refers to, you're going to see me, if I cut something to length and I've measured, I'm going to actually set up a scrap and cut it to be sure. And then I know I'm right. Like I told you, that thing of measure twice, cut once, that's a good thing. But my philosophy is measure twice, cut 2 or 3 times. Make sure it's right. Okay, with that said, we're going to run the molding that's going to make the belt line on our corner cabinet. Now, the bit I'm going to use is this. It's called a multiform. You've seen them out here everywhere. And I use this bit on almost everything. Now the cool part is if you look at anybody that's got them, sells them, you're going to see all of these different profiles. And it'll make a whole bunch. The one profile we use is the one they never show. And what we're doing is we're going to use the bottom portion of this bit from here up. This is going to give us a nice cove, little step, a round over step and then a cove. Now here's the actual profile of the molding. And you can see how I got it. Right here. Now, you can't, it's got a bearing, but the bearing isn't going to, you can't use the bearing for the bottom, so you have to use a fence. And that's not difficult. So what I do is I set my molding in here, my bit in here, and I have to play a little bit to get it right. I take a straight edge and I set it right with the bit going straight out like this. I set that straight edge right on the inside of this, right here, right this cove. It's actually going to make a round over, but on the bit it's a cove. Right here, and that's my first setup. And then I do test runs until I get it right. And what I'm after, let me show you what I'm after. All right, what I've got here, I'm getting a little bit, on the bottom, I'm getting a little bit of a step. So that tells me that my bit is too high. So I'm going to lower it. Let me knock this edge off real quick on the saw and check it again. Okay, now I'm right. I have a round over, and I don't have that step. I'm getting a full round over in my profile. Let me grab a couple pieces to show you what we're after. Okay, this is going to be the piece that will be running along the bottom edge of our upper case. And I've showed you this before. Then we're going to take another piece that's going to be attached to the bottom case, and that's going to form our closure. So I don't want that step in here. I want it just to be able to go together, one setting on top of the other. Now, the problem that you can encounter with this is if you have this bit doing a full round over right here, where I was just showing you. The problem is that when you start putting your material through, it's going to act like a joiner, meaning it's going to be taking the face completely off. And so it's going to be removing wood in the front that's not in the back. And that will give you, that can cause you to get your molding off. So I want to show you this. Do I have enough room here to run this? Yeah, here we go. Okay, if you'll notice, because I had some dye on here, I'm actually leaving a little teeny flat spot right on the face of that. That way, it's not acting like a joiner. Now, when I'm done, I'll just take a little rubber sanding pad and sand this, and that'll bring that right together. So that's the way I do them. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is I'm taking a lot of meat off because I ran that one shot. So I'm going to go to the table saw. I'm going to skim this side a little bit just to make sure that I'm straight. Then I'm going to come back and I'm going to take about a 1/16 off of this face and run it again. That will give me a smoother, nicer cut. You notice I've got a guard set up, but you also notice there's a lot of bits sticking out here. So that's the reason we always want to run these out of a wider piece of wood. Don't try to do that without a push block or something to help you. You know, I've got enough space here that I'm back here far enough that I'm out of the way of that cutter. Let me trim this and we'll do the final cut. Okay, remember the crown. Now, we haven't made the crown yet, but this profile that's on the front edge, see, this is the crown glued to another piece of wood. But I need to make this profile. And guess what? It's the exact same one. I use this molding on everything. And if this is our face frame, when this crown comes down over top of it, see, I want room back here to be able to screw it down. Now this is 4 inches wide, so I made one 5 inches wide that I'll use for that. And I'm doing it now because I'm already set up. And here it is. Now, when you're doing high-figure tiger maple, when you feel this, you're going to feel it's going to feel a little bit rough to you. That's not a bad bit. Tiger maple, you have all this hard and soft grain that's running. It's like an end grain running into a flat grain, and so it's kind of like shearing or cutting an end grain, even though it's on the flat sawn side. So you can expect a little texture there, but it'll sand and come down just fine. The higher the figure, the more it is. Now, hard maple, and let's talk about that a minute. This is a soft maple. Soft maple, there's nothing real soft about it. It's purely a classification and not a description. You have a hard maple and a soft maple. Now you find tiger maple or curly maple, whichever one you want to call it, in both species. Predominantly, you find more of it in the soft maple. Hard maple will actually shear, and shearing mean the way that bit's cutting this wood, it will shear it a little smoother a lot of times. But this is soft maple, and it works just great. Then there's nothing soft about it, trust me. Okay, what I've done is I've trimmed these. Now I want you to notice something. When we make this belt molding, we've got our big molding and our little one. Now I could use another bit and do another setup to get the small molding. But what I'm going to do is I'm just actually going to cut it off of a full-size molding so that I get the exact same profile. Now I realize I might be wasting a little bit of wood, but not much. So the other thing I want you to notice is I've got one piece that's going to make my molding, one piece that's going to make my small molding, and then here's another piece. I'm going to give you a hint. When you're making moldings, always make a little extra. Now, I forget exactly the measurement going around this, but I know we're going to be cutting the crown and all. And I think it's like 51 or I don't remember. But all of these are 60 inches, pretty close to 60 inches long. Because when I cut that crown, see, that crown's going to be sticking out further, and when I cut a miter on that, it's going to be longer in the front than it is against the case. So I'm making sure I got plenty of room and plenty of material to get my molding, or to get my crown and the molding. Don't skimp there. If you need 2 pieces of molding and you cut 2 pieces of molding, odds are you're going to mess something up and wish you had that third one. If you cut the third one, seems like you never need it. You know, Murphy's Law thing. But a little extra molding is always in order. Okay. So what I've done is I've trimmed these a little bit. I'm going to run them again. Okay, I hope there's something that you figured out in my technique. Measure twice, cut 2 or 3 times. To get that really smooth, nice cut, you want to take off a minor amount, a very small amount, and you want to keep it going through fluid. So as you notice, don't leave it up where it can catch your shirt. The same thing applies with the table saw. You know, I always cut it, then I come back and take that little fine pass through just to make sure that I can keep that piece of wood moving as fluid as possible. Just keep it moving. Okay, I'm not having to get crazy with it. It's that little fine cut and moving through that saw smoothly that prevents the burns and gives you a straighter, truer edge. Now, speaking of the table saw, we're going to go cut these moldings out right now. Okay, here's going to be our ultimate goal. We're going to cut this molding like this. We're going to come down, and then we're going to come over, and we're going to create this tongue. That's what I'm talking about right here. Get it real dark for you. I'm going to come down and come over. Now, my stock is 7/8 of an inch. That's going to be my face frame. Yours may be 3/4 or wherever you came out. So from this point to this point is going to be 7/8 for me. Now, I want a little bit of a reveal on top. What am I talking about? Right here, if you notice on the top, see, I want this to be about 1/8 of an inch. This top portion right here. I want that to be about 1/8 of an inch. And what's going to happen is that's going to come, see this piece, the way this is going to work is this is our face frame. This is actually going to come up on it a little bit, and then we're going to be attaching underneath. Now that does several things. One it's going to do is if we get any little burrs or anything on the bottom edge here, who cares, it's covered. We don't have an issue. That's better than trying to set it dead on top of it and creating a seam. Because we could pull this in really nice and tight to the face frame and then screw it or nail it from underneath. Makes a lot of sense if you think about it. So, the first cut I'm going to make, remember when we were straight lining and we was talking about this wood can spring a little bit when we relieve the tension on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a kerf right here. I'm going to kerf this. In other words, I'm just going to run it through the table saw and I'm going to cut just a blade right here. So I'm going to establish this this little top edge first. Okay? Now, so I need to know what that distance is. So I'm going to get over here against something nice and straight, and then I'm going to measure over to the edge of the molding right here, then I'm going to add 1/8 to it. Alright, so this is actually 9/16, so it's about 11/16 going to be from my fence to the edge of my blade. Now my stock, this is 7/8, and I only need this tongue to be about 1/4 of an inch, or 5/16. Now that's why we're cutting this now. So that, whatever this little tongue, the thickness of that tongue comes out, that's got to be removed from the height of the face frame, so that it leaves a space for this molding to go in it bit. Hope we got that. Now, I can't make that with this cut with my splitter. So let me get rid of that. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure up 1/4 of an inch. And I'm going to use this scrap piece since it's nice, because it's the same thickness. I think I'm going to go ahead and go 5/16. I've got the material to do it. Might as well give a little extra meat in there. Alright, so I've measured up 5/16. Now all I'm going to do and we'll make sure my highest point is there. Now actually what I'm doing is I'm actually got that kerf just a little bit higher than that. Just a little bit, maybe 1/16. Okay, I flipped it around so you can see it. I hope you can see my mark. It's right there. Right in here. So what I'm going to do is I've got my blade set right up to, actually I'm about 1/16 of an inch higher on the line. And that's not going to matter. It's actually going to help me, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. Okay, and I need to be set at 11/16. Or thereabouts. I didn't set it right. Let me measure that again. I didn't set it at 11. Now you notice I didn't just slam it in there. I bumped it in and checked it first. Now see, this is what we want. About 1/8 of an inch reveal right here. So now I'm going to run it. Both sides. And I'm going to run my spare so I don't need it. Now, I'm going to measure from this point right here, the edge of the reveal. I'm going to measure from this point in 7/8. Then I'll take an overall and we'll rip it. I'm 1 inch and 9/16. You know what, after all these years, I still got to count them marks. That's fact. Let me put my splitter back on here. Now, I want to mention something before I rip this. When I was routing this molding, I was taking a lot of material off. I ran it one shot. Most of the time what I do actually is I sneak up on it. In other words, I take a little bit, and move in on it. I don't, and if you've got a smaller router, those are those 3-horse. If you've got a 1.5 horse or whatever in your router table or whatever, do that. You don't want to put it through that much material, that heavy. Plus you're really taxing your bed a little bit. So to sneak up on it and take it in light increments makes a lot of sense. Okay, now I got to rip this in half, or yeah, split it. 1 inch and 9/16. Is that what we said? Y'all sure I'm right? I hope. Okay, I got a mistake. I just realized it. Look at this.
See, all I want out of this little molding is right here. I want just that. But I curved it all the way down. So I can't create a tongue on that. Can't do it. And I went and cut all three. I didn't even think about it. So don't y'all do that. So what I got to do now, and I've left my router set up, is I'm going to run this piece. Then I'm going to come back and curve it very low so it's just going to be a little bit. See what I did? I curved it too deep. On the big molding, no problem. But on this one, I'm too deep.
All right. Let me run these, and then we'll come back, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, back to the drawing board. See, sometimes I gotta get rid of some sawdust down in here. A lot of times I turn the dust collection off a little bit because of the noise when I'm filming. Alright. Now, let me set I'm going to use my original cut to line myself back up. Okay. Now I'm just going to wing this. I'm going to set it down pretty low. Take a look at it. Get this right. But I couldn't do that again if I tried. I'm dead on the money. This little cut is just a little bit over 1/8 of an inch deep. All right. See what I mean about having extra material? If y'all think I did that for your benefit, you're wrong. I flat missed it. 1.9 inches. All right, I think I can do this without the splitter. Okay. Now, I got to cut some material off that small molding. Now, what I've got to cut is I've got to cut all of this away. I've got to cut it right on that line. That's what I got to remove right there. So this is just going to come completely off. So I need to make sure I'm above my piece enough. And I got to make sure I'm dead on the money. That's 3/8. I'm going to set it 3/8 and 1/16. This is a push stick, and it's getting a little bit thin, and it's exactly what I use for some of this thin cutting when I'm going through. You see how thin, and this is a piece of that Trex that you see at Lowe's if you catch a contractor and get you something, or a piece of plywood, because this is thin, but it's pretty strong as far as pushing, because I'm going to be working close to that blade. Here we go. Right. Before I do this, I want you to watch me. When I cut something long like this, I know it can move. So my pressure, this hand is pushing, and this hand is going tight to the fence. Even if I've got a bow in it, it's going to keep it tight to the fence as it goes through the blade, and it'll keep me pretty even. All right, that did pretty good. So I'm going to take the other 16th. Now, what I could have done, since I have a drum sander, I could actually take this back and put it through the drum sander and sand this little bit off. And I would be perfect. But I can saw it. All right, I'm good. But you know what I forgot to do? Well, day ain't my day. Y'all supposed to be watching out for me, guys. Come on. Jeez. Whew. My camera girl didn't get it either.
Yeah, I did.
What?
You didn't cut the curve.
Yeah, I didn't cut the curve. And there stands Ed. Hi, Ed. Jeez, guys. No, I didn't. Sure, I'm getting true here. Hey, do me a favor. Grab me a little block with just a little square block, piece of sandpaper on it. I got a little edge on this that I got to get off. 120, dude.
Are you saying you want me to speak up if I think you're wrong?
Yeah. Yeah, everybody else does, you know. You got the same seat they got. Except they ain't hollering loud enough, obviously. Whew. This is woodworking, hey. Yeah. I forget what I was doing one time. Man, I made 3 of the most gorgeous feet you ever seen. I wasn't needed 4. Yeah, you get that. That'll do. What it is, when I got that cut, I got just a little bit of a fuzz here, and I want to make sure that's gone before I go back to the cut desk. All right, now,
Now you see where I got this tooth, guys? See, by making the curve, I'm not going to try to bring the tooth right here. And by cutting this just a little teeny bit deep, now I'm going to make the one on the bottom here 5/16 as well as I'm going to make those, because I just want to keep the measurements consistent. So I'm going to set my fence 5/16. That work? Run them all. I need to be just a hair deeper on this one. Got that. Oops. You know, today just ain't my day. Guess what I did? I didn't cut my curve deep enough. It's alright, it happens. Now remember, I want to be just a hair deeper on this, just a little bit. I get to cut it again. Well, I got my molding made to spite myself. I was sure trying not to, wasn't I? Jeez. So now you learn something. Life in my shop is kind of like sometimes life maybe in your shop. I hope not. Now you see what's going to happen? See the profile? So when this is our face frame, this is going to come up on it. All right, and we're going to attach it into the bottom. There will be no visible means of attachment. And this molding could be easily removed
particularly for transport or something. Now, that said, this little molding, because it's going to be sitting on the bottom of that case, right here. The other thing that this does, this gives this little teeny molding a whole lot more meat. It's a whole lot heavier than if I just had that little thin molding and was trying to glue it. Okay, so what this is going to do, and then, like I said, this piece is going to be on top. And when we put this together, this is what we're going to get. Looks pretty nice. It'll look pretty nice. Okay. So I got it right. Okay, now we've got something we can use to figure out our length. So, we've made molding. We understand what we're doing. Now, next time we'll get around to cutting to length and getting this face frame together.